Sup, y'all, it's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I figured we'd do part 2 of the TOT Throne of Thunder solo guide. So we're going to be looking at the last 6 bosses in the instance. We're going to be starting at Durumu and finishing at, of course, Lei Shen. Now, if you do want to see part 1 of the solo guide, so that's going to be the first 6 bosses, starting at Genrock and, of course, finishing at Ji-Kun, and that's going to be both of the mount bosses are going to be in there, and so if you want to do that, or you just want to figure out how to get up to here, there's going to be a link in the video as well as in the description. Whenever I made part 1, a lot of you guys did want to see a part 2. Do you figure out how to get the pets, the titles, or just the transmog? And so this is for you guys. Hopefully it helps. One thing I do want to say though, I want to level with you guys, honestly. You can see like my eyes are really kind of bloodshot, and they've been like that for quite a while now. And I've had a bit of a relapse, be honest. It was a few days ago. Well, it's actually, no, it's just a couple of days ago. And some of my buddies that I hadn't talked to since I got out of this, they messaged me kind of out of the blue, and they said, yo, what's up? Why are you ready to get back into it? And I really didn't want to, honestly. I had told you guys even that I wasn't going to get back into it. And I don't know what it was. Maybe I was just tired of doing pet battles. Maybe the Tannin jungle dailies were just, the unseen influence became seen. And out of nowhere, I just had a moment of weakness, and then I got back into it. I just wanted to let you know. I hope it doesn't affect my health. I hope it doesn't affect the channel, but I just wanted to let you guys know. And if you didn't know, I'm talking about I reinstalled Diablo 3 for the season. My wizard's level 70, and I have full viewers set. I played until fucking 2:30 in the afternoon all night long, and 6 in the morning, and I'm going to play for like 5 more hours after I finish this video. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that's happening. And yeah, so let's get on to this. So, keep those bad feelings behind us. Durumu the Forgotten. I was about to say the Observer, but he's, both. So anyway, Durumu is probably the hardest boss in here. The reason he's the hardest boss in here is because during the phase where he has the 3 different ads that you have to kill very quickly, all of the beams being on you does a hell of a lot of damage. And so if you're not a tank, you're going to have a really, really bad time doing this. And so I'll kind of explain how to do this as a tank. Now, if you're not a tank, honestly, good fucking luck, because I would not recommend doing this. I'd recommend rolling a tank. You'd probably be better off rolling a tank, like starting in Elwyn Forest, killing bears all the way up to this guy, and you're going to be faster probably than trying to do this on another character. It's like a priest or something like that. But anyway, so he does a couple of different abilities. He does that little purple thing that's on the ground. If you stand in that, it knocks you off the edge and you die. So you don't want to get stand on that. Whenever he does the beams, he does there's going to be like little 3 red flashes. And so you want to make sure that you know where those red flashes are and take mental note of where they are. So as soon as these things pop out, as soon as they do, go ahead and kill them as quickly as possible. This is going to be where you want to use every single cooldown that you possibly have. And you're going to be taking a hell of a lot of damage right here. I didn't use Shield Wall, and I didn't use Demoralizing Shout, and I didn't use other cooldowns, just to kind of show you guys a more accurate description of the damage. And so you can see it's not fatal damage. It's not just going to kill you in a couple of seconds, but it's going to give you a really, really bad day, especially if you're pretty slow with it. If you stand in the yellow one, it does less damage to you, but also you have to wait longer while you're taking more damage. And so if you have a lot of good sustained healing or something like that, maybe you can stand in the yellow and rotate around. But personally, what I prefer to do is just pop all of my cooldowns and kill the red ones as quickly as possible. The red ones seem to be the only one that counts with the fog beasts, and so you want to make sure that you have that under control. And after you do that, honestly, like you do that, is done. Okay, this boss might as well be dead. Like, it's easy after that. And there is one thing that is going to happen. And by the way, the purple thing spawn, just want to say this right now. Let's say there's a purple thing. Get out of it. Okay, so that's done. Actually, that's like 3 different mechanics in here. Like that's like that should be like an umbrella thing for this entire boss. If there's purple, don't be in it. Anyway, so I did want to say, after you fight him for a while, he only does 1 of these phases, and you don't want to have to do, like, if your damage is so terrible that you have to do 2 phases, you're probably not going to be killing this boss anyway. Then he's going to do this eye beam. He's going to point right at the direction. There's going to be these little purple squigglies and swirlies, whatever you want to call them, on one side. Go to that side and make sure that you do not walk through that eye beam whenever it turns white, okay? If it turns white, it's going to burn you, just like the KKK. And so make sure that you avoid that. And after that, he's going to to do a little maze, and so just go right around the maze and pretty much repeat the fight. But usually if you have even decent damage, you're not really going to have too much trouble with this. This is honestly probably the hardest boss in the entire instance, and if you can kill him, you can kill all of the rest of the bosses. A lot of people think that Dark Animus is very difficult. He's not, okay? So don't worry about that, and I'm going to show you guys how exactly to do it. And so anyway, after that, we're going to go ahead and look at Primordius. Now, I was actually going to put this video out a week ago, but I forgot to record Primordius, right? And also, I'm going to say right now, I've got a ton of ads on me on Primordius. Like, see all these ads? You're not supposed to have these ads. I was trying to show you guys that even if you have all these ads on you and it's just a fucked up attempt and you're taking tons of extra damage, it's still going to be really, really fine. Like, this is probably one of the easiest bosses to solo just because of the mechanics that work with him. Now, the way it works is that he summons these little blobs that run to him, all from around the room. And you have to kill those blobs, and the blobs can do two things. If they, if it turns purple, okay, you need to get away from it as soon as possible because it puts a debuff on you. But if it turns red and it has like a little red, like weird like Animus thing under it, you walk over it and it gives you a buff. And if you gain 5 of those buffs, because you do less damage to Primordius right now, if you gain 5 of those buffs, you become transformed, as you guys can see right there. I just broke one and I'm jumping over to it, and so I just got a buff, and that I think that one increases your critical strike. And so whenever you gain 5 of the buffs, you become fully mutated, and that's going to turn you into like one of the things like Primordius. I don't know what the hell he is, weird lizard guy, whatever. And so anyway, you need to go ahead and you get 5 of those buffs, and then you can do full damage to Primordius. And see, there's one of the purple ones. You see that? Make sure you're not on top of that, and also make sure Primordius doesn't get touched by that, because if he does, what's going to happen is that he's going to be healed, and so you don't want to let that happen. And also he does this evolution thing, but honestly, as long as you can make sure that you have all 5 of the buffs. Now, after you get all 5 of the buffs, do not get another buff, okay? What's going to happen if you get another buff is that after you're mutated, if you get another buff, even if it's the Animus buff, it will give you now a debuff. And so you want to make sure that you only get enough debuffs to transform your character, and that's it, okay? So after that, stop getting debuffs, and you can use these living fluids as, I think I almost got hit by that one there, so you got to be very careful. You got to be, you got to be very careful. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. You can hit these things, and if you hit them, they do have a high enough level to where you can get victory rush off of them and other things like that. But this boss is relatively easy to solo. He does a couple of different things. He does these erupting pustules, and he also does a tank dot that just stacks up throughout the fight, and so you want to make sure that you kill him kind of quickly. But if the debuffs run out, and as you can see, it's 2 minutes. As soon as the debuffs run out, you can just go ahead and kill 5 more living fluid and just reset the stacks and do it again. But don't get more stacks until your stacks entirely fall off, or it's just not going to work, and then you're going to get the debuff, and then everybody is going to be disappointed in you. And so make sure that you don't do that. It's this boss, as I said before, is very, very easy. Just make sure you have the 5 debuffs. Make sure he's not standing in the purple thing, and you're not standing in the purple thing. Make sure you get mutated, and that's really all it's going to take. You can clear out all the mobs before you actually go in here, and so you don't really need to worry about them, so it doesn't confuse you or anything like that. I just did it to show you guys kind of that this boss, kind of to, I guess, like make people like less stressed out about it, I guess, because it's really not that hard. Now this boss, Dark Animus. So guys, everybody thought like this boss was like just the biggest cock block. There's no way you're going to be able to do this. And honestly, guys, I don't know why. Like, it's really not that hard. So what you want to do after you kill the ads, go ahead and find a couple of the small anima golems. Now, you need to make sure that the small anima golems are not there. You need to kill them as fast as you fucking can. And you can't use AoE abilities on them either. Well, you can, but they do less damage. So as soon as you pull the boss, kill like 3 or 4 of them. Kill as many of them as possible. Pop every cooldown. Kill as many of these anima golems as you possibly can, because whenever they get together, they get a stacking debuff on each other, and they turn into like just like super robots. Like, I don't know, like it's like they gain a huge buff and they do a lot of damage and they're going to one-shot you, right? That's the main point. And so you want to make sure that you kill them as they're coming to you, and also the ones that you're standing on as they spawn. You kill those as soon as they do spawn, and so they don't have the chance to get together. It's actually very easy if you have enough gear and enough damage. If you don't, you're going to be having a very bad day. So after that, they can spawn 2 other different types of ads. There's the large anima golems who cast Crimson Wake. That's the little red thing that's going around me, chasing me. Just make sure that you move out of that. If you don't move out of it, obviously it won't kill you. The massive golem does a smash slash directly at you, and it does more damage to every single time it hits you. Not really too much of a big deal. Also, the Dark Animus does these little circles around you, and you have to run pass by. Try to only get hit by one of them. If you get by two of them, each one that you get hit by makes you take 200% more melee damage. And so obviously, if you're getting hit by all of them, you're dead, right? And so make sure that you don't have that happen. This fight is actually very easy as a tank. As a DPS, you might have a little bit more trouble unless you have a pet. Like a hunter would have absolutely really no trouble doing this. But as you can see, just making sure that you get that first phase, just getting those ads, killing as many of them as possible, pop every cooldown, kill those ads, get them out of the picture. And so when there's only 2 or 3 of them, they're not going to buff each other up enough to where they'll kill you. And so don't really worry about it too much. Just kill those ads as fast as you can, and the rest of the fight is going to fall over. Now, the next fight here is Iron Quan. Now, Iron Quan is also really not that hard to do. There are multiple phases that you have to do, and you pretty much have to kill him on all of his different mounts, and you also don't have to, pull all these other ads. But again, I wanted to show you guys that it's really not that hard to do. And so the first boss here, they do a debuff on you. I think it's called Impale, and the debuff persists through the entire fight. And so that's probably the only real difficult part about this. If you're a tank, or really if anybody, just does a lot of damage to you over the course of the fight. And so you want to be very careful with that. You can somehow, sometimes like be able to reset it, but it's very unlikely that that's going to happen. And so you just got to really be careful, with that. And also whenever he reaches 100 energy, he does this Molten Overload. This used to wipe raids, but that was a long time ago. Now it doesn't do anything. And so don't really worry too much about that. You just burn him down. Make sure to see the fire lines. Don't be in the fire lines, right? It's real simple. Also, after you kill Rorschach, you can do damage to Iron Quan, or what you could also do if you want is you can try and move as far away from him as possible to try and reset your stacks. And so I actually just literally thought of that right now because I didn't have to do that. And so after you, because you don't really, damage in the last phase is like just completely irrelevant. It's like super easy in the last phase. That's like the victory lap, okay, when you actually fight Iron Quan. And so the second guy, Quetzal, whatever, who knows how to actually pronounce that? Somebody does probably. Anyway, look like an idiot. Anyway, so Quetzal does a couple of different abilities. Each different, what is it? Quellan that he gets onto. That's those amounts. He throws a different spear. And so the second phase, Quetzal, this is the lightning spear. And so he does the only thing that's really going to kill you here is he's going to go in the air. There's the lightning spear right there. Get out of it as soon as you can. And if you stand it too long, I think it stuns you. And each spear, if you're in it too long, like the fire spear just does a dot. And, I think the frost one roots you. And so anyway, he goes into the middle. He pulls you into the middle. And here you're taking reduced healing. And so you have to get out of this circle as soon as possible. And so use like whatever speed boost you can. Get out of the circle and use the healing cooldown and wait for Quetzal to come to you. You can wait, but, obviously if you get back in that circle, you take less healing. And so this is probably the hardest part of the fight right there, is surviving through that one thing. Now, if you can survive through that, you can kill this boss. It's really not too big of a deal. Also, tornadoes, that's another thing that you don't want to be in. And pull him all the way to the back of the room here. So the tornadoes are not as much of an issue, and you don't really need to worry about avoiding them. As you can see right there, I got too many stacks, and I was stunned. And so you want to make sure that if you do have that happen, you have a PvP trinket or some kind of way to get out of the stun. After that, it's pretty much just rinse and repeat. Mainly, like, the only problem here is, again, like the stacking debuff. And if the stacking debuff is too high, going into the, like the lightning phase or whatever, where it has like all the tornadoes everywhere, you can take a little bit too much damage, ended up dying, and that's actually what almost happened to me. That's why I had to use my health potion. Now, the last guy here is actually pretty easy to deal with. Dameron, or whatever the hell his name is. So he does this dead zone thing. Don't attack him whenever in front of the dead zone. Just stand on one of the sides that's not the dead zone, and it's not going to matter. If you attack him towards the dead zone, it just deflects all your attacks. It's pretty simple. If you get hit by the frost spear, I think it's like 4 times, it roots you in place, and so that's really kind of a bad day. You don't really want to let that happen. But other than that, it's really phase 2 with the lightning Quellan is really the hard part of this fight. And if you can get through that, you can get through the fight. It's really not that hard. This is like one of the ones, honestly, I was kind of curious to see if I would be able to solo it. I thought I would be able to, but I wasn't sure how high the debuff would stack. But maybe if I didn't get a chance to reset my debuff throughout the entire fight, I might have actually wiped here. And so you want to be very careful with that and making sure that at least, like at this point, as I said, Iron Quan does fucking nothing, and that's why we're going on super fast. We're going Sonic mode here. We're going super fast because there's nothing really to see. So he stomps the ground. Okay, this is another AoE raid mechanic that doesn't matter because there's not a raid. You are the raid, and so you're obviously going to be able to survive that. You're going to be able to survive his melee hits. So don't really worry too much about that. And outside of that, that just does increasingly more damage, and you just basically hit him until he dies. And so it's pretty simple. The only thing really, as I said before, that you really need to watch out for this fight is you just really got to make sure that you don't get too many stacks of the debuff. And the best way to do that, as I said, is whenever he does go into you transition him, because like in between each colon he gets out and you can hit him for a few seconds. Don't worry about hitting him and just run away so the debuff expires. And so the next boss here is the Twin Consorts. And so right here, you want to do as much damage to Swin as possible, and also just be damaging Luin. Now, what you used to have to do, if you didn't really have that geared of a group, you'd have to wait, and I'm trying to remember like what the whole the thing was about this. Oh yeah, Swin does like increasingly more fire damage, and so if you don't have a lot of DPS, you can go ahead and wait it out until phase 3 when both of them are up, but I wouldn't really recommend that either. And so occasionally Swin will come out here and she'll go ahead and do Tears of the Sun. You want to switch off to her and do as much damage to her as possible because you're going to be able to kill Luin before the phase ends. By the way, the way the fight normally works is like you fight Luin for a while and then she goes away and then you fight Swin, but because you're soloing it and you have higher DPS and everything, you're just going to kill Luin and then you kill Swin, so you don't really have like the phase 3 or anything like that. Now you can also see those little weird like what is it, greenish I guess like what are they? What's that color? I don't know. It's a weird color. So those little green color things, if one of those hits you, it puts you to sleep. Okay, and so you want to make sure that you don't get hit by one of those. And also, the reason you're doing as much, see right there, as you can see, the reason you're doing as much damage to Swin as possible is because it is kind of a DPS race at the end, because Swin does a tank debuff that does increasingly more damage each time she applies it to you. And so because you're only solo tanking this, you are going to be taking more damage. And she's also gaining increasingly higher fire stacks, and the fire stacks just make her do more fire damage, and the debuff she applies is fire damage. And so it's just really kind of common sense whenever you think about it. Just make sure that you do as much damage to her as you can in phase 1, so you have her as low with health as possible whenever you go into phase 2. Now phase 2, the little green things go away, and so that's good. And here she does, I think it's called like Saber Lash or something like that. Yeah, there's Blazing Radiance, and so that's going to do increasingly more damage throughout the entire fight. And I think if you had Luin up, you could have like these meteors, and you bring her over to the meteors, and it gets rid of those stacks. But I wouldn't really recommend having to deal with a lot of that. Again, if you really do have to deal with that, you probably should be spending your time doing something else besides soloing in this instance. But this is the most efficient and most effective way of soloing it. And so there's the Fan of Knives, and so every single time she applies Fan of Knives to you, obviously it's going to do more damage, which is really kind of the enrage or the difficult part of the fight. And so you want to make sure that you do have a cooldown up every single time Fan of Knives is going to expire. She applies it on a cooldown. I think it looks like she's probably right about to reapply. I think she applies it at 15 seconds whenever it's left on the debuff. Yeah, right around there. And so as soon as it's about to go 15 seconds and you think it might kill you or something like that, take you too low, go ahead and pop a minor cooldown so it minimizes the damage. Really kind of common sense stuff. Outside of that, it's just a tank and spank, and you just get, hit her until she's fucking dead. Outside of that, you can use, I don't even think you can, you used to be able to go around on, the edges of the room and, do, these weird patterns for, somehow summoning the different Celestials. And I remember I'd do it in my group, and I'd never do it right. And I think you have to do a W for one of them. I have no idea how to do it. And so honestly, if somebody else knows how to do that for soloing it, and that might help you a little bit, you can let us know. But for me personally, I don't really think that you need to do that, especially if you have a tank spec character. So as you can see, it wasn't really too much trouble to do. And by the way, my character's item level during this was 720, and so you can kind of base your own stuff off of that. Now Lei Shen, this is it, the big dick of the instance. Now he's actually really not that hard to do. I think somebody soloed him at level 90, right? So it's not really that big of a deal. Phase 1, he puts a puddle of a that thing that would kill me all the time in heroic progression. I don't even remember its name. I should, though. I should definitely remember its name. That puddle of lightning stuff, make sure that you are not standing in it, because it just does more damage to you. He also does these lightning bolts too, and so make sure you stand in those and it goes away, and if it doesn't, it goes to somewhere else. He also casts Thunderstruck. The farther away from it you are, the less damage you take. As long as you're not in the little circle or within probably 5 yards of that, you're going to be pretty much just fine. You can also kind of kite him around the room, and so he doesn't empower one of the different orbs, or I guess like orbs, or like pillars. As you can see, he's like channeling the lightning to it. And if he's too close to the pillar, or he's too far away from the pillar, he'll just do a stacking debuff on you, and it'll just do increasingly more and more and more and more damage till it will kill you. And so make sure that he is close enough to the pillar to where the lightning is tethered to him, and so he's not just just doing this infinitely. You probably don't want to do the bouncing bolt one. The only real reason that I did the bouncing bolt pillar, and you can mouse over it and it'll show you what the pillar is. You can do diffuse lightning, which would probably be my recommendation, just because it doesn't really do much. The reason that you don't want to do the bouncing bolt is because tons of these ads are going to be summoned throughout the transition, and so if you do it normally, what you want to do is you just want to make sure that you're standing in 1 or 2, if you can, of these little swirlies each time that they go down, just to remove these things out of the fight throughout the transition. And so these transitions, really it was more of a group thing that you had to deal with, and so as a solo player, the transition is pretty much just a break. And so just make sure that you're standing in the swirlies, and if you can't take all the different ads, and you're standing in the swirlies, and kind of like I guess like getting rid of as many ads as possible, so they don't overwhelm you. But honestly, as I said, it's really not too big of a deal. And the corner, I guess, of the room that you fight him on, that he has the most energy. He's channeled the most energy into like that little pylon, the little electric pylon there. Whatever he's tethered to, that it, like, overcharges, and so you can't have him tethered to that pylon anymore, and so you have to move him over from that pylon or pillar to another one, and so be aware of that. He also does Lightning Whip. Make sure you don't stand in it. After he does Lightning Whip, he also does a spell called, I think it's called like Fusion Slash. Make sure that you are not faced off the edge, because if you're faced off the edge, it knocks you off the edge. We had a guy in my guild who got hit by this, he got hit by this like 10 times. And you think about that, like 10 times to figure that out, like, it's crazy, right? And so make sure that you don't let that happen. It's very, very simple. Just make sure that you make sure that you're not faced off the edge, or you have some sort of way to get back on the edge. I actually, this is the second pull, and I got knocked off the edge on the first time, so I guess I probably shouldn't be talking shit. But anyway, you get him down to a certain percentage of health, and then he's going to go back into the second transition, and then it's basically a repeat. These unleash powers, unharness powers, the things that are lagging up the screen and are fucking everywhere, they don't really do a whole lot of damage, and so they can be AoE'd down very easily. As you can see, they have like 50,000 health, and so if they do become overwhelming, you can just clean them up pretty easily if you've got good enough gear. Now, in the last phase, he does a couple of other things, and by the way, in the first phase, he also does an ability called Decapitate. I didn't talk about that. I do apologize. And so make sure that if he does cast Decapitate on you, you jump away from him, or you get away from him in the last second, or you have a cooldown up, because the closer you are to him whenever he casts Decapitate, the more damage he does, because it's probably not going to be hard for him to decapitate somebody just like 20 yards away, right? Because, his arms aren't that long. Anyway, so after he finishes his second transition, he's going to go ahead and do the channel, and this is the last phase. This phase is not really that big of a deal either. Again, it was more of an AoE raid damage phase back in the day, and so don't really worry about it too much. I clean up all the different ads just so I can show you guys more easily what's going on. There's going to be wind that goes, and as you can see, the direction of the wind is going to be pushing you in a direction, obviously, and make sure that you don't stand in the lightning cracks from the lightning whip, and if you do, it doesn't really matter. But if you don't really have very good gear, you might need to worry about that. And also make sure you're not standing in the Thunderstruck. It becomes a little bit more difficult, considering that you are being pushed around, and even if you do stand in it, obviously it's not really too big of a deal. And at that point, you basically just repeat the same thing. The wind does increasingly more damage over time, and he also has a tank debuff that you need to obviously kill him at a certain more time, so it doesn't do too much damage to you. But honestly, guys, that's really all it takes to solo TOT. You just need to make sure that obviously you have enough gear to do it. It's really more of a gear thing. There are some strategies that you can use, but realistically, as a tank, you can do this with really no trouble whatsoever. And so I'm glad that I finished this up. and my eyes are watering up again because, we talked about that at the beginning of the video. So I'm very glad this is over. Let me know if you guys want to see any other solo videos for any other solo fights in the game. I can probably do those too. There's not really a whole lot of going on in WoW, which is probably why I was playing D3, is because there wasn't really a whole lot going on. And so I did want to let you guys know that that's going on. And also, so if you do want to see something else solo or something else as a video, let me know, because there's not, as I said, not really a whole lot of content to show. And so if you guys do want to see something, I can definitely know that we still have like at least 1 or 2 people who want to see that. So that's pretty much all I got. I hope this helped. So thanks for watching, and like, comment, subscribe.